If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Check it out now.
Let's do this. What's happening, everybody? French Open pod, or as the cool kids call it, Roland Garros 2025 pod. Tennis's second major of the year. Gill Alexander from Circa. Drew Dinsick from both the NBC Sports Bet the Edge podcast, which he does with Jay Croucher, and of course, Dinsick Classic, the deep dive with Andy Molitor. And then Zach Cohen from the Tennis Channel from VSiN, betting on X on Twitter. Drew Whale _ Capper. Or guys, we could just talk about game one of the Pacers and the Knicks if you'd rather. I'd be happy to talk about that forever if you'd like. All right, the draw is out. The draw is out. We do not have quarter numbers yet as we do this. We Drew and I have done this before while the draw is coming out. You remember that, Drew, from a couple years ago?
Oh, fun. That was super fun.
While it's happening.
Instant reaction.
Instant reaction. Well, we have an almost instant reaction because we don't have we're going to have to speak of quarter odds in a when these come out, here is something to look for kind of way. Let's start with the ladies' side because we were just sort of chatting about this beforehand. I'm curious where you guys landed on this. I will just begin by saying, I'll throw it to you first, Drew. I will just begin by saying 4-time champion Iga Swiatek ain't getting out of her quarter. Let me just be the first to say it. You agree with this?
I mean, I do. I don't have as strong an opinion or as a declarative take as you do. She could certainly win this quarter.
She could win the whole thing.
She'd be my favorite to win this quarter, but not at current market prices.
No.
In fact, that's maybe where we ought to start, which is that there's like a very, very weird disconnect between the people who are following this day by day, the people who are following, who are pricing, match by match, and like the takes on where Iga stands right now, where she should be properly rated, and the way the futures market has always had her for this event has been completely out of touch now, going on 2-3 months. And there was like an increasing sort of reality check, I feel like, as her price drifted in the futures market, of like people were like sort of waiting for her to just show up and just start wrecking tournaments on clay like we are used to seeing, and it just never happened. And as we sit here right now, I would say that it is this is a fairly straightforward exercise to price my Iga number in May of 2025 to my Iga number of May of 2024. She would be a plus 250 dog against Iga of this tournament last year.
Yeah.
She would be a 4-1 dog against Iga of 2 years ago. Right. And so you can kind of navel gaze all you want about the reasons why this is the case. I'm not nearly as in touch with sort of the inner workings of her and her camp and what's kind of, what has gone on that has brought her to this point where she's just not as, competitive a player. I'm sure some of it, I assume some of it is mental, and that like when she is running good, she is like a dominant force. Like she just plays with that much more confidence. And the opponent on the other side of the net is like, I don't have a chance. And nobody feels that way right now. Everybody has a chance. Everybody feels like they can take her on, get that head-to-head win. And this is all while saying that like she's only lost once in this venue in the last 3 years, 4 years. It's been like she's only lost to Zheng Qinwen at the Olympic semifinals, and that one, in my opinion, was fueled entirely by Danielle Collins getting rattle in her cage in the run up to that particular semifinal, where she was basically like just threw just enough kind of off the court kind of shenanigans at her that she didn't have her A game that day against Zheng Qinwen, and she loses. And so other than that, like she's been very tough to beat on this court. the people who I would say are kind of the hardcore Iga stands of the world, the Gill's Army, as they're known. They would come to her defense and say, like, since she lost that pretty abysmal performance in Rome, she's been hardcore training at Roland Garros, like pointing specifically at this event, and is obviously locked in to try to salvage what is otherwise a lost season. But she comes in as your 5th ranked player, or at least 5th seeded player, and she got the draw from absolute hell. Like, this is
the worst quarter I've ever seen in my life. Worst in terms of like competition.
And not just because Ostapenko's in it, right?
No, not just because Ostapenko, because you know what? She might not even get to Ostapenko, because Raducanu is in between her and Ostapenko.
She's playing well.
And then there's, then there's Paolini on the other side of the quarter, and Svitolina, not to mention Rybakina and Bencic. Like, it's just, listen, let me just attach numbers to what Drew was saying. And by the way, if you're not a tennis hardo, as Drew likes to call it, and you're just sort of like, okay, who's this girl? What are we talking about? Iga Swiatek was the world #1 player for the better part of a couple years. She once won 37 matches in a row. She's still 23 years old. She's won 5 majors, 1 U.S. Open, 1 U.S. Open, and 4 French Opens. It's a Rafa Nadal of the women's side kind of thing at her age in terms of her French Open wins. What Drew and I are talking about, and Zach will here as well, is that something has gone terribly wrong. Coaching change. There's rumors of a relationship. Who knows what's happening? Either way, she is not the player she once was. And to just attach numbers to what you're saying ago, the 2 years ago, what you would make her as a dog against herself 2 years ago versus as a dog 1 year ago. 2 years ago, and I'll just do some raw numbers. Tribute to Dan Weston. Service points, win percentage, return points, win percentage combined. 110 is elite. 2 years ago, she was 113.1 combined. Last year, 109.6. So I'm talking 2 year numbers, 113.1. 1 year numbers, 109.6. 6 month numbers, 103.2. So it really is, you can draw it on a graph downwards. So whatever is at play, if we get the player that was there 2 years ago, yeah, she's the favorite. She's the best player in the world on this surface. But if it's current status with that kind of draw, good God, no. Zach, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Well, go ahead, Drew.
Just want to add one thing to you said. If you get the player that undressed Emma Navarro in the round 4 of the Australian Open.
Right.
Like, it hasn't even been that long since we've seen her just untouchably good, but then she just hasn't put it together. She hasn't won a title since this event last year.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And until this last go, where she lost to Danielle freaking Collins at, I'm getting them all mixed up now. Rome, was it? I can't remember now. I guess it was Rome.
Awful performance.
Until then, you could also say, for the Iga stands out there, you could also say, hey, well, here's the deal. Even though she never gets to the final or wins a championship anymore, she never loses early. Like, it's a 44 tournament streak in a row where she gets to like at least the quarterfinals, I think with one Wimbledon exception. But then Collins just beat her in the second round, I believe it was. So now that's the latest drop in the bucket where it's like, wait a minute, this has gone terribly wrong. Now, but to your original point, Drew, the first sentence out of your mouth, but if she won the whole thing, I mean, I'm not, then okay, that too. And then you're like, well, she's back on pace for Serena. Grand Slams. Go ahead, Zach. Sorry about that.
No, I agree that she's probably still the favorite to win her quarter, but seeing her, go on to then beat Sabalenka and then beat Goff or Andreeva just seems really unrealistic given what we've seen over the last couple of months. I mean, I still think she's a great player. I mean, we're talking about someone that has won 75% of her matches this year. She's not terrible now, but I do think that, it is a big mental thing. I think that the players that come to the court with a ton of confidence can just blow her off the court because I think that she is second guessing everything that she's doing. It's not a coincidence that she's lost to Collins and Ostapenko. These are two ball bashers that have brash, personalities. They go out there and they think they could bully her, and they can. So I think that maybe this 2-week circuit that she's had of just really preparing at Roland Garros will, maybe help her a little bit. but I agree. It's really hard to back her right now. I remember I was one of those suckers. I hopped on a numbers game with Gill like 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, there's a plus 115 out there. Like,
Me
I'm jumping
too.
on it. And that's a horrible number now.
Now it's a horrible. And I remember at the time it was like so much better than market. There was a stray plus 115 when she was like minus 175 everywhere else. Now she's what, plus $2 and change. Still the short shot, right? Still like co-short shot here to win this tournament, basically. But I would.
I saw plus 350 somewhere.
Oh, did you really? Maybe I'm slow on the
she's
draw.
drifted pretty far.
Drifted even more.
With the draw. Now that we you put the the seasoning of the draw on top of it, like now it's like, okay, this really is going to be very, very tough. She's gonna have to beat all the boogeymen and all of the good players to get a title here. No one's getting out of her way. And I will say that really when I kind of threw up my hands and I was like, I guess it's just not happening, was Madrid getting beat by Goff 6-1, 6-1. Like,
what is that?
She owned Goff.
Right.
She owned her.
Yeah.
And now if that's what you got against like the kind of the elite women's players on tour, then I don't see how you're doing it. And to kind of, again, like, if two weeks go by, all of the casuals, all of the people who come around and look at the price and like, oh my God, this is too good to be true. You go blank. We've lived through this in our lives with Nadal at Roland Garros, where you're like, God, he is so out of form. He might not even play. Guy's limping around. He withdraws from Rome. You're like, oh my God, how is he going to do this? And then he rolls out of bed and wins. When you have 4 titles, you're in a different classification. And so we have to just not be surprised if it happens. But at price, I think you're almost better playing her match by match right now with the way the market is pricing her in matches and this path. You're going to do better than 3-1, I think. I think kind of final thoughts on Q2. It's the quarter of death. It's got a lot of really, really good players. But the biggest disconnect for me is I have Paolini and Svitolina pretty dang close.
Yeah.
And right now in the futures pool, they are an eon apart, which makes no sense to me. So Svitolina as your Q2 shot in like the 10-1 range or something like that would be pretty worthwhile. She's like 50-1 right now in some futures pools, and I just don't see that.
I'll just do the raw numbers again. In terms of just like year, Swiatek won at 109.6. Coco second. Zach will have something to say about Coco, I see here in a moment. 109.3. Naomi Osaka, Svitolina second, Drew. Alexandrova, Svitolina also up there with 109s, as is Osaka. So there you go, just on raw numbers alone, and look to see who's drifted out in that futures pool, let alone the quarter. But again, Svitolina in this quarter of death. So that's the issue. But Zach, I just looked at VSiN.com where you put out all your tennis stuff, and I see that you already made a play to win it all.
Yeah, I put Goff in at plus 550. There is a plus 600 out there. Her draw is just so easy. I mean, she played, I thought, up and down tennis for those 2 tournaments and made the finals of both of them in Madrid and Rome. And she's just kind of shown now that her B- C+ game is good enough for her to coast late into events. And I know that the double faults are creeping up. The forehand is kind of shaky, but I just don't see her being tested until, a match against, potentially Madison Keys in the quarterfinals. I mean, the toughest match that she would have, even in the 4th round, is like Barbora Krejcikova, who we haven't seen since she won Wimbledon. So I think it's a really easy draw. You're looking at maybe a matchup with Andreeva in the semis. That's been a mental edge to Goff. Maybe not one that I view as a huge mismatch on the court, but I think that it's one that's been tough for Andreeva to get over mentally. So I really just think Goff's going to make the final. Maybe she doesn't win it, but I'll take a plus 600 if I have it in the final. Yeah,
we jumped from Q2 to Q4, so we're doing this a little bit out of order. But at Q4, Goff's quarter, if you will, Maddie Keys, as you said, this is not her surface. Alexandrova, great raw numbers, but I don't buy it. Kalinskaya, Kudermetova, Krejcikova, who won the French that Iga didn't win since the pandemic. And then the only other name is Emma Navarro. That's the only potential I see fly in the ointment in that quarter for Coco. But let's parse this out now. So let's stick with this half of the draw. So the Gauff is in Q4. The Q3, that quarter that Gauff would have to contend with in a semifinal, that's the Andreeva, Pegula, Muhova, Osaka, Badosa. Osaka plays Badosa in the first round, by the way. That's an interesting match. Mertens, Sakari, Kasakina. That's the Andreeva, Pegula, Muhova. I'll throw it out to both of you. We've talked about Muhova before. She lost a final to Iga at the French, and she didn't play in the French last year because of the wrist injury. Is she sort of the sneaky play again?
If she's healthy, she's got a shot.
Yeah, she didn't. She was the fifth choice in Rome, and she didn't play. So something's clearly not right. I think you got to pass. At least I got to walk away because I bet on her to win Rome, and she didn't take the court. So I clearly don't know. She probably Andreeva. I think the bottom is pretty outside of that Badosa Osaka match, which is the best match of round one. The bottom half to me looks uninspiring from a competitive standpoint. This looks very straightforward. Andreeva wins Q3. Very straightforward. Coco wins Q4. And based on recent history, very straightforward that Coco takes the bottom.
You agree with that, Zach? I don't have a huge problem.
If Muhova is healthy, like she's got a shot at winning that quarter. It's just we haven't seen her since Miami. She wasn't playing all that well in Miami. I'm guessing that wrist is what continues to bother her because wrist injuries just seem to linger forever and ruin careers. So hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking just healthy, Muhova probably a top 5 player on clay, but I just don't think we could buy it.
It's funny, the shift here. I said this off air before we got on to YouTube here, but usually for the last 4 or 5 years, we would come on here and be like, "Oh, I got quarter plays on the women's side. The men is a little more straightforward." To me, this is the opposite here. But we'll do the top half of the ladies' side here before we talked about Q2, which is the quarter of death. Swiatek, Paulini, Svitolina, Rybakina, Bencic, Ostapenko, Raducanu. Q1 is Sabalenka, Arina Sabalenka, the current world number 1. That's her quarter. But Zheng Xinwen is there as well. And that is pretty interesting. Also, Danielle freaking Collins, Leila Fernandez, Anisimova, Schneider, Stearns, Danilovic, who has great numbers, but we shall see. Sabalenka, Zheng in the quarterfinal, right?
Think so.
Yeah. It's straightforward. It's an interesting, besides Q2, it's very straightforward to me. But you got Coco plus 550 to win it all. Did you make any play in the outright, Drew, for this?
I'm there too.
Okay.
I was waiting to see. I saw, I was staring down some 650s yesterday, but there's a world where, you flop Q2 and Q4 with Coco and Iga spots.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm very glad I didn't bet 650 yesterday. But now with knowing where, how the chips fall, like 550 is way short for Gauff. Gauff should be like 325, 330.
That is
my numbers.
That is great point. Yeah. If you did the shift, if you just changed those two players from Q2 to Q4, how differently we would be talking about this right now.
Yeah.
I said this on the radio side the other day, that Coco, and I think I said this when she lost the other day, that she's about a year away from people saying, yeah, she won the one U.S. Open, she won a WTA finals, and she's won 1,000. But like, we're about a year away from starting, if nothing else happens, where we'd be like, this is kind of getting disappointing. Would you agree with that? Like, so she's got to win some of these now. This might be her moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think ultimately, if you said the quality of player she is, and then the quality of women that exist on tour, like over the course of her career, she should have 3-ish slams.
Yeah.
And it should be more than just US Opens. She should win a French Open at some point. And if not now, when? Like, if not now, when Iga's down, when?
That's right. This is your moment.
And oh, by the way, like, we're saying all this and we're qualifying. Oh my gosh, what an easy draw for Coco Gauff. She was gifted the Wimbledon last year, and she did nothing with it. So believe me, like I've been here before with her, and I'm prepared to be disappointed again. Don't get me wrong. But I will also say that this is, I think, a little bit of a unique buy low for her, because she just got waxed by Paulini in that Rome final where a lot of eyes were on her, and that is a complete toss that one from consideration for me. Like, if you thought she was going to come out and give you anything after spending 3.5 hours into the middle of the night against Zheng Xinwen in what was the most physical women's match I've seen in like 3 years, like, no way. She was completely done. And Paolini, took advantage of it by specifically playing aggressive. And I thought that was brilliant. And like I haven't won many I haven't done a ton of like staking, big boy staking in match by match tennis this year, just because like whoever is effectively making these markets is using the exact same tennis abstract data that I'm using. So it's not like my edges are pretty much gone for match by match. So I will acknowledge that. But the Paolini Goff was one where after watching that Goff Zheng match, you're just like, I hope they give me plus money on Paolini. And she went off at like plus 164 or something absurd. So I think you completely toss that result. And that's kind of giving you maybe a bit of a buy low here on.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Coco.
All right. And by the way, Zach, I'm with you on the fact that I have Iga bets at what I thought was going to be an outstanding number at plus 115, and then it just deteriorated. Plus, I have a plus 117, a plus 116, and a plus 115. And now those numbers are crapola. So if Iga somehow does win this, I'm winning, but at like the worst, not the worst, but not a good price whatsoever. Anything else to add on the lady side? I want to get to the men's because I got plays there, but I'm looking at just the outrights here. I want to get to them. I'm trying to find the women's outrights here.
I'll throw out Sabalenka if we can get a minus 140 on her to win quarter one again, which they've been giving out pretty much with the same draw every tournament with Zheng in that quarter. I'll take that again. I know that she lost to her last tournament, but Zheng played out of her mind, then went out and played one of the worst matches I've ever seen. So I think that she was just getting up for that match so she wouldn't lose. Could stay on. Has she never beaten her before heading into that one? I think that she was just really motivated.
Here's the ladies outrights. Sabalenka plus 260. This is at DraftKings, by the way. Swiatek plus 350. Coco plus 550. Andreeva plus 550. Jasmine Paolini 12-1, but again, she's in the quarter of death. Zhang is 20-1. Zheng Xinwen is 20-1. Do you hate that? I don't hate that.
If she had landed in any other quarter.
You just don't like the Sabalenka quarter.
Do not.
Yeah. Svitolina.
Do not.
Svitolina 40-1. Yeah, I think it's just a much more straightforward and just the way that the cookie crumbled on the draw makes a tough, for me anyway, a tougher draw to bet than what I see on the men's side, where I do think there is more opportunity. Shall we go to the men's side?
Well, yeah, I guess we didn't talk a ton about the quarter of death, but I will make an impassioned case here for Svitolina. There were not a lot of clay warm-up matches. Well, also, we should mention Jessica Pegula, who we kind of glossed over in Q3, like RIP and peace to her dog, which apparently is why she was so terrible yesterday, I guess. But whatever the case is, she's dealing with some mental stuff. But she won a clay title. She won Charleston. She's got some, she's in the mix as far as a win probability, but not enough to beat Andreeva in Q3, in my opinion. I think that's your Q3 quarterfinal. And I'll take Andreeva 2-0 over Pegula there. Absolutely going to be Coco over Keys 2-0, 2-1 in Q4. And then Q1, I think, is Sabalenka, a little bit of a revenge spot against Zheng Xinwen. If Zheng Xinwen even gets there, her path to getting to that quarterfinal is tougher than Sabalenka's. So I think Sabalenka comes through pretty cleanly to a semi. Q2 winner for me at price, absolutely Svitolina. Now, I think Svitolina is better than Paolini head to head, which is kind of why I like her as that, in the price point range, because you're talking about a difference between like 12-1 and 50-1 between those two players, and they're effectively the same as far as I can tell you. So Svitolina coming through at price for Q2 would be awesome. And then on the bottom half, I don't really think Rybakina has 7 matches of winning tennis in her, but she could absolutely spoil this for Iga. I don't think Ostapenko has 7 matches of winning tennis in her, but she could absolutely spoil this for Iga. And then, yeah, you mentioned it. Raducanu has been playing well. That's Iga's second round match. That's going to be awesome. Kostyuk's been playing well. That's going to be the third round match. That's going to be awesome. I don't rate Bencic right now based on her retirement after getting beat 6-2 in the first set against Sakkari. I think she's a toss. So it's probably going to go Iga versus Iga with the warm up match, and then Raducanu, Kostyuk, Rybakina, and then Svitolina, and that stretch is as tough as any. And she's obviously, as we talked about, nowhere close to her peak. So if she comes through there, she can go toe to toe with Sabalenka and prevent Sabalenka from getting to the final. If that happens, I'm like, I would rather, as a Coco guy now, I guess I'm a Coco guy now. I would rather see Iga in her current state than I would see Sabalenka, just because it's a little bit, too much recency of Madrid. Seeing, Sabalenka handle Coco with no problem, but seeing Coco just absolutely wipe the floor with Iga, I'd kind of prefer that. So even with 4 titles and in particular a head-to-head final that was lopsided, I'd rather draw Iga in the final if I was a Coco backer. So
did Kostyuk
kind of the way I see things.
Kostyuk end up in Q2 also? Maybe
she's the third round head-to-head for Iga for
sure. I have a blank space versus a qualifier, so that must be Kostyuk in the thing that I saw here. She was kind of a dark horse from a lot of the sharp folks I talked to, but this is just as bad a draw for her as it is for Iga. This is
personality-wise, she's the one that could go out there and beat Iga for sure too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, she was almost beating Sabalenka a couple times here recently. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Q2 of this French Open is the most stacked quarter I think I ever remember seeing in the women's side of any slam. It's unbelievable. Now you're telling me Kostyuk's in it too. Paulini, Svitolina, Rybakina, Bencic, Ostapenko, Kostyuk, Raducanu, and Swiatek. Come on. That's incredible.
You got 4 slam winners in your section if you're Iga.
That's amazing. Pegula, by the way, 80-1 to win it all. And her numbers are great. Her numbers are consistently. That's the thing about Pegula. Through all these years, you'll see when you do like 6 month versus 1 year, you'll see the numbers sort of fluctuate. Now, obviously, at the top, someone like Iga is pretty consistent. But the most consistent player all through years is Pegula. She never drops form. It's amazing with her. She's always consistent. Never the highest of the high, but super consistent up top. Okay. Zach, anything to add?
Yeah, before we switch to the men, I'll just throw out kind of a crazy one that I have. If they offer to make the quarter, not win the quarter, I like Haddad Maia in quarter 4, who has been a disaster this season. But she went to Strasbourg. A lot of players take this week off. A lot try to play their way into form. Has won 3 matches against top 25 players, one of those being Emma Navarro, who is in her way. She has played really well at this tournament in the past, almost beat Iga here a few years ago, or was that, I don't know when that was, last year. I think that she's a really underrated player, especially when looking at the market. So I'm not sure she's going to actually make a deep, deep run, but I could see her, winning a few rounds.
Yeah. Before the Australian Open, one of the last things that was said before we moved on to the men's, or maybe we did the women's second, was I was like, and then Maddie Keys, I was doing a little Columbo thing out of the door. I'm like, what do you think? Maddie Keys doesn't have a chance here? I'm so glad we even mentioned it, because Drew and I, though, the Wimbledon before we did the Marketa Vondrasova, we never mentioned her once, which why would we have?
Why would we have?
I don't have a player here. The Raducanu would have been my player to mention here in the same way that I mentioned Maddie Keys, but she's in the quarter of death, so I can't with any sort of certainty.
We can wrap with the women with the honorary Maddie Keys discussion, which is she's a different player in the slam. If you don't already know that, you're going to learn it the hard way.
I thought she was going to win Wimbledon last year before she got hurt.
Maddie Keys? Yeah. I'm just glad, by the way, I'm just so glad to see Raducanu now, after these 4 years, now showing the player that she is after the U.S. Open amazing run as a quali that's never happened before or since. Now she is showing the signs of being that player again, like for real. To the men's side, and before we get into the quarter by quarter, let me just start with sort of a macro question. Of the clay court specialists, well, no, let me save that because I have an answer for that. Well, no, I'll ask it of you guys, and then I'll reveal mine later. Of the clay court specialists, and I'm just talking about guys that you wouldn't expect to do that great on other surfaces. They're largely Latin American players, sometimes Italian players. Who is the clay court specialist that you could see doing the best here at this French Open?
I have Darderi and Cerundolo both going to the fourth round.
So
I was going to say Cerundolo too.
Cerundolo's my guy. Portent of things to come. All right, so we all.
It's not because it's not. Let's qualify. It's not because I love Cerundolo. It's because he's in Q2.
That's correct.
And the world thinks Djokovic is going to win Q2, and okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, let's start at Q2 again, just like we did on the last one. So Q2 is Sasha Zverev's quarter, with Djokovic in it as well. But it's Kobali, another clay court specialist, Auger-Aliassime, Dimitrov, Medvedev. This is not his surface. Medvedev's never gotten past the quarters here, I don't believe, which is his worst sort of slam performance. And Cerundolo. I am waiting for a Q2 Cerundolo bet, because that to me is the bet to make, because his numbers are off the charts. And here's the thing with him the last 2 years at the French Open. This is one of these things where this is not coming from oblivion. Francisco Cerundolo, who, by the way, has a brother on tour as well, Juan Manuel, but Francisco Cerundolo, 2 years ago at the French Open, he got to the fourth round, meaning the round right before the quarterfinals, and in doing so, he beat Monfils he beat Fritz, and then he took Rune to a fifth set tiebreaker that he lost 10-7. That was 2 years ago. Then last year, also the same thing, got knocked out in the fourth round, but he beat Tommy Paul, and then he took Djokovic to a fifth set. I think this is the year where he breaks through, and I think he wins this quarter, and I think people are going to be shocked, except for the hardos, because I think this is a great draw for him. So Cerundolo, I'm waiting for the quarter. We don't have the quarter plays yet, but that would be my quarter play. In a tournament that you all agree, it's either Sinner or Alcaraz winning, correct?
Yeah, you add my Sinner Alcaraz probabilities together, and easy to round up to one.
Easy to round up to one. Sinner, by the way, in Q1, Alcaraz in Q4. Okay.
I like that call, though. I mean,
you like the Cerundolo?
Yeah. Should just, well, this is the perfect time, perfect place, perfect part of his career to do something like this. If he's ever going to make a semifinal in a slam, it's going to be the French Open, and it's going to be when he gets drawn into a Q2 with, your top seed Zverev throwing up 36 times before playing Hamburg the week before a slam for some reason. 36,
by the way. Yes.
we gotta mention this every single time when there's tennis players who take a wild card for a tournament the week before a slam. It's usually not the sign of like, this was always in the plans, right? Taking the wild card in and of itself is telling you that there's some reason that they're electing to divert from what the plan was. And when it comes to Zverev playing in Hamburg, I don't think it's very hard to parse looking at his results. He's not playing well enough to make the type of competitive effort here that he was expecting of himself. So he's trying to get in sharper form, and he goes and gets blown out of the water today while apparently gutting it out through some illness. What a hero for just taking the court. In his own quotes after the fact, but no, this is the perfect draw for Cerundolo. And before moving off Q2, I'm just kind of curious. Like, speaking of not part of the plan, Novak Djokovic does not play the Italian Open for reasons that we are left to guess. He does go to Geneva, however, with his family, mother. Bring them all out. Come to Geneva. We're going on an Alpine holiday in the end of May when the French Open starts next week. Is pretty likely, in my opinion, that Djokovic is trying to win his 100th title, and that's why he's there. That's this weak field. This is maybe his last realistic chance to win a 100th title, for all we know. And to me, at least, that means his mind, his heart are not really pointing very strongly at making a run at Roland Garros. Do you guys have any opinion on that?
I think you're 100% right. I will credit you for being on the this will sound terrible because I don't mean this about Drew, but Drew was on the let's bury Djokovic first bandwagon, I think, before most people were. But I think you are absolutely 100% right here. I don't think this is ever. By the way, he's also trying to win in addition to his 100th tournament. For those who don't know, he's trying to win his 25th Grand Slam title. Right, he's tied with Margaret Court, I guess, at 24. Is that the word? I've lost track already. So 25 would be this historic thing. It ain't never going to happen.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen.
It's certainly not going to be this one.
No.
Which makes me think that the plan is, look, the plan pretty clearly last year was, who cares what the rest of the results are all summer? We're winning that Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
Like there was no doubt in my mind that everything in his team, everybody in his payroll, were all pointing to peak performance in the first week of August on clay. Like that was the plan. This year, it feels like the plan is let's just win some title, get the 100th out of the way, and then we'll try to win 25th at like Wimbledon or something. Wimbledon is his best chance left of any of the, he's not ever beating Sinner at Australian Open ever again. He's never beating Carlos on clay again, I don't think. The U.S. Open, the conditions are so unfavorable for him that that's not happening. I think realistically, if there's any title left for him, it is Wimbledon. And so my guess is this is probably title in Geneva, if he can even do it, and then, pack up and prepare for Wimbledon.
Pack up and prepare for Wimbledon. Anything else on Q2, Zach?
Well, I'm not burying Djokovic yet. I agree. I think 2025 Wimbledon is probably his last chance. I kind of think he's going to back out of Geneva after beating Arnaldi today. I think he's going to head over there with some rest. I mean, I guess we'll learn a lot to seeing what he does this week. But I would agree that if he does go out there and win this title, he's not doing anything at the French Open. But if he does leave, pack it up, and goes over there healthy, I've seen enough this week where I could see him kind of winning this quarter, just because the quarter draw for him is a dream. I think that it almost looks like Goff's to me, where I don't see him running into anybody that can give him trouble until potentially the quarterfinals. And at that point, you're getting maybe whatever the sick, bad version of Zverev is, or Cerundolo, who I don't think is a big match player. I could see him winning the quarter and then just getting dusted by Sinner.
By the way, Djokovic, as we're doing this, up a set on Arnaldi in the quarterfinals. Am I seeing that correctly? Yeah. In Madrid. All right. So that's Q2.
Geneva, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In Geneva. Pardon me. That's Q2. Madrid was the week before. And, okay, I'm waiting for that Cerundolo price. So let's just match that with Q1 right now for that half. We all kind of agree this is a Sinner, by the way, Q1. That's his quarter. We all agree that Sinner is going to dominate this half. However, I just want to ask you this. Had we not had one tournament of Sinner, which we did, right? And he loses to Alcaraz in Madrid, in Rome, pardon me. Get it all confused. In his quarter, this is not the easiest quarter in the world. Let me just say that. You have de Minaur in there. You have Fils, Rublev, Davidovich, Fokina, not to mention Dejere, Mensik, and Urkats and Draper. I mean, it's a tough quarter, but it's Sinner. And because we saw him do well this last week, we kind of are blocking that out of our mind, aren't we? Like, is an upset impossible here with that group of guys? Because that's a pretty stacked quarter to me.
Man, this is a tough one. I'll go first and say that the difficulty of the draw for Sinner is real. And that, to me, is why you see a little bit of a repricing of the Alcaraz Sinner at the top of the outright market. Right?
Yeah.
Like it was, there was a drift for Sinner, and the why would there be a drift is literally just because Q1 got a little tougher.
Yeah. Alcaraz plus 110, Sinner plus 220 at DraftKings. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. That's a drift. That's a drift. Like, he was 250. People saw the form, particularly the form in the match he had against Ruud, and they were like, oh. And he briefly kind of moved to pretty close to even with Alcaraz for the French Open until Alcaraz beat him. And then he fell back to like plus 175. And now he's back even further. And I get it. Like, this is a tougher quarter than it was not that long ago, than it was anticipated. But he's a professional. Like he doesn't tend to make a mess of his Grand Slam opportunities again, in the earlier rounds, the way that Alcaraz does for whatever reason. And he should be able to come through this, pretty cleanly, having, kind of gotten, had a decent amount of rest. And I thought when he came back to Italy I thought back when he came back on tour at Rome, I thought he looked to me to be in very, very good physical shape. And he needed the match reps. Obviously, he had blisters. He had other issues. Like the one day he had to play back to back, he didn't look especially strong. And then he didn't have the, kind of the timing and the ability to go toe to toe with Alcaraz, which shouldn't have shocked anyone, I don't think. But ultimately, yeah, I think the general kind of read is this is still his quarter to lose, and I don't know. I like the quote unquote tough part of it is you have an informed Jack Draper potentially as your quarterfinal head to head, and you can make a decent case, I think, that he's the third best player on tour right now.
It's a pretty brutal quarter. Yeah. Zach, you think, because that's the one thing that does stick out. It's like before we advance Sinner all the way to the final, I'm like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like the Q2 on the women's side. Q1 is that on the men's side to me.
I think it'd be Draper or he loses in the final. I don't see him losing in the semis. And Arthur Fils is the player that I kind of have him playing before facing Draper. And I don't think Fils' second serve is good enough, or just I don't think his sturdiness on the baseline is really there to beat a Sinner. Like I've always been really high on Sinner's clay court ability. I think, even looking back to last year, I thought he was going to win Madrid before he backed out with that hip injury. So I've seen enough from him to kind of rate him really highly here. And, seeing what he did in Rome definitely helped out a little bit. I also thought in the final against Alcaraz, he had his chances to win that opening set. And throughout the course of that whole match, I thought his forehand was terrible. I actually, Tennis Insights said it was his second worst forehand performance since the start of 2024. And obviously Alcaraz is going to have a movement advantage over him, but Sinner can still out-hit him. So if he's hitting a little bit better than he was in that Rome final, which I'm imagining he was both tired and nervous playing in front of Italian fans, I think he's got a chance of winning the tournament. So I jumped on that plus 250. I think 3 games into that Ruud match. I still feel really good about it. I would still say it's Alcaraz's tournament, but I think Sinner's getting to that final.
Yeah, I agree with you about the semifinal too. It's an interesting thing. If he gets out of the quarter, it is a leap to me to the finals. He's not going to lose to whoever wins Q2. To the second half of the draw, Q4 will start. It's Carlitos is a quarter. Carlos Alcaraz trying to win his 5th slam and his 2nd French Open, which would be a back-to-back French Open. Remember that French Open final where Zverev kind of got hosed by the overturn by the umpire. Remember, this is still the tournament, right? We still have the umpires ruling here at the French Open, right? This is the last one where they are still going to do the, I'm sorry, that was out. We don't have Hawkeye technology yet. We still have the umpires overruling here at the end. We do have the technology, but then they get to overrule. Okay, so Carlos, Q4, what do we got here? We got Tommy Paul, Casper Ruud, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Karen Khachanov, Fabian Marozsan. That's about it. His quarter, right? Nobody's beating him. Tommy Paul, maybe? No, nothing? No, nobody.
Tommy Paul is the only name that stands out.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry.
No, I just still don't have that trust level with Alcaraz that I should have, because I think he could just be so erratic on the wrong day. And there are some players in this quarter that I do think can just kind of out solid him, with Ruud and Paul being, 2 of them, maybe not Tsitsipas, but Alcaraz plays decent tennis. He should make the semis and should make the final, but it's just, I still don't have that trust in him just because of the bad losses he does take.
I think that's a great point, though, right? Like there is a little bit of Carlos where I agree with you. I like your term, out solid him. There are those guys who are a little more, you can almost trust them to be more consistent, whereas Carlitos has the strange, if not match, set in him at times, right? So I agree with that. But yeah. Drew, you're all about Carlitos there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as a Sinner backer, as a Sinner man, I'm hopeful that Tommy Paul takes Alcaraz 5. He can. Tommy Paul's playing great tennis right now. He obviously had enough to really test Sinner in Rome. I thought that was a pretty heartening performance for him. He should have beaten Zverev at the Australian Open, except he made a miss to that match himself. And that's probably why I don't think Tommy Paul necessarily gets across the line to the tune of backing him to win the quarter, even at a nice price. It's just that, when the going gets tough, he's going to lose the tiebreak points that he needs to win against Alcaraz, probably. And so he probably loses 3-1, but makes it hard for him. And I'm I am fingers crossed here. I think we're headed almost surely for a Carlos versus Yannick final, and I'm hoping that the kind of the scales are a little bit leveled out, because some players just make life a little bit harder for Alcaraz, and it starts with Paul in the quarterfinal, and then it goes to Musetti in the semifinal next.
There's where we're going next.
Musetti,
yeah.
I feel like we're all in lockstep there.
I would have laid -2. I was saving that for last, because I would have laid -200 that the three of us are going to agree on this. That Q3, and I'm just waiting to see. Now, here's the thing. What's this price going to be on Lorenzo Musetti, who, for those who don't know, is a Italian player who has been a really solid player for many years on tour. Great on clay, but a top 20, a top 30, a top 40 player. And then in Monte Carlo here in the last month or so, he found something. He even said it out loud. He's like, I feel like I'm a top 10 player now. And he's playing like it. And he's in Q3. It's, who else is in there? This is the Taylor Fritz quarter, by the way, which is kind of ridiculous. But it's what? Tiafoe, Rune, Baez, if you want like clay court specialists, Mahach, Navone. This is Musetti's to win. I wonder what price we're going to get on this, because Cerundolo, I can expect a good number. I don't know what we'll get on Musetti here for the quarter.
Yeah, I mean this quarter looks to me like a pretty like a goodish 500 tournament. You're probably going to get plus 220, maybe plus 250 for him. Would be my guess. I don't think it's going to be that short. He's not going to be in like the 50% chance to win range, I don't think. But Musetti to me proved his kind of what his ceiling was last year. His match against Djokovic in the French Open will stand out as one of the top 5 that was contested all year last year, in my mind. And then he, I don't know if you guys remember this, but he's a Grand Slam semifinalist.
Which slam was it?
Wimbledon. He made it to the semifinals at Wimbledon last year, which was a total shocker.
Yeah.
Doubt we mentioned him on the Wimbledon podcast.
Dude, I'm sitting out Wimbledon. That's the lesson. I'm totally sitting out Wimbledon. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like he kind of proved what his ceiling was then. And you're right. Like his performance on clay throughout this entire year, I thought early in this season on hard court, he kind of proved that he is starting to learn how to translate his game to hard court a bit. And so you're like, oh, cool. Okay, good. He's making the right progressive steps that you're hoping for, where he doesn't just become a clay specialist and we only get to really kind of experience the fun and joyfulness of his tennis and 5 months of the 4 months of the year, I guess. But his clay throughout, his performances on clay throughout this European swing have been just flat out awesome. And I think he'll be pretty clear, like, I don't know about a household name, but I think people are going to be pretty impressed when they see what he has to, number one, punch his ticket to winning Q3. And then number two, hopefully again, he goes toe to toe with Mr. Alcaraz in the semifinals and really does some damage, because I think he can. It's just, he needs to bring his best that day.
The answer to my question, I think, is apparent. It's not going to be that great of a number, because I'm just looking at the outrights, which we do have. We mentioned Carlos Alcaraz plus 110, Yannick Sinner because of the draw plus 220. Then it's Novak at 14-1. Drew's vomiting in his mouth. Sasha Zverev at 18-1, and then it's Musetti and Ruud. No, it's Musetti at 25-1. So he's the 5th name out there. So we were wondering, because Zach and I were trying to figure out before the draw, we're like, wait, who's going to be the 4th seed in this tournament? Who's going to be the 4th after Carlos and Yannick Sinner and Zverev? And we were both like, what, Fritz? Oh my God. So it's Joker is the 3rd short shot behind Alcaraz and Sinner. Then it's Sasha Zverev. Then it's Musetti, followed by Ruud at 28-1, Draper at 40-1. Rune's also 40-1. So by that, it would be Musetti's biggest competition in that draw, I guess. Tsitsipas after that at 50-1, Fils at 60-1, and so on and so forth. Medvedev 65-1, Tommy Paul 80-1. Anyway, so there you go. So Musetti's he's the 5th choice in the whole tournament, and this draw.
Yeah, and he'll be the favorite to win Q3. But again, like because of the other names that are in there, I think it'll be a little bit flatter at the top. I don't think you're going to get the same kind of price you're going to get.
I would agree.
Like, you know, yeah, even like Sinner and Alcaraz are probably going to be like what in the, I don't know, minus 250 range. Like they're not going to be that short. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Alcaraz was minus 140 at Rome.
Yeah, right.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What is that?
Yeah, it'll be probably in the 250 range, I would guess, for both those players. Just looking at these draws, and then quarter price for Musetti. Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe I'm dreaming, but I think we're going to get a 220-ish, and I would take as low as probably 180.
Yeah, you'd bet as low as plus 180. Is what you're saying? Yeah.
I'd stop if it's shorter than 180. Then like we knew it was going to happen, but I'll let it happen with Emily.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's for me. It's my pre-draw bet was Iga at a terrible number, even pre-draw. Now we see the draw. Good God, it's still my only side. It's only my only bet so far on the lady side. I think it's much more straightforward. But for me on the men's side, Q2 Cerundolo, whatever that's at, Q3 Musetti, and I think that's the way you bet it. I think those are it. Really, like you were saying off air, Drew, how like the lady side was such a clear picture for you. This was such a clear picture for me. It's like, okay, yeah, it's the non-Sinner Alcaraz quarters, and man, did this work out nicely.
Did. I completely agree. Yeah, like this is perfect storm for both of those names. Cerundolo and Musetti should round out your final four.
Who are we forgetting about on the men's side that we haven't mentioned, or on the ladies' side that we haven't mentioned? But I think we covered the ladies pretty well. Is there? I
mean, the men's there's like a bunch of really good young Italians that are probably going to do cool stuff here and be in second week. Like the kind of the cohort of Dartari. Dartari probably comes out as he could very well make, to Zach's Beatriz Haddad Maya make the quarter bet. I could see Dartari winning section 6. The rest of the players in that section are pretty uninspiring. And then you have sort of the same story in the bottom at the top half of section 3 with somebody's going to have to play Cerundolo there. It could very well be an Arnaldi, a Cabali. There's a world where you have 3 of the final 4 are Italians here, and 5 of the final 8 are Italians, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Zach, maybe you know the answer to this question. I always get this mixed up from slam to slam how they do the draw, because I know Wimbledon does it one way and then everybody else does it a certain way. How does the French Open decide on this stuff vis-a-vis the rankings? Do you know?
No, I should know the answer, but I don't.
Zach, by the way, does stuff for the tennis channel.
I thought you meant how do they do the draw? They pull the little, they pull the buttons out of the thing, and the French crowd goes, "Ooh la la! Oh, it's a French versus French matchup in round 1. Ooh la la!"
I will I will give them credit for this though, because I remember the last draw we were waiting for was the Indian Wells one. You'll remember this, guys, Drew specifically, where we just sat there all day. We're like, "Come on, man! You guys do everything else well. Like, can you get this out when it's supposed to come out?" But this was done great, but I keep looking at the Q2 on the lady side. I've never seen anything like that before, because there's so many players that I would have wanted to bet, right? Paolini, not to mention Iga, but Svitolina, to your point, Raducanu, and they're just all bunched, Kostyuk, and they're all bunched in the same quarter, and it's just so tough to bet any of them because of that. So it's a match to match thing. By the way, I don't see any round 1 matches posted yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see those lines out yet either.
Got to go to Czechoslovakia for that.
Osaka Badosa. Give me what you think the line's going to be on that match, because that's the one match that jumped off the first round board.
Osaka Badosa is so
did
tough.
Did Badosa win today?
Did she play?
That's what I
always say with
she
her.
Lost to Samsonova.
I didn't. I didn't see the whole match. She did lose. Huh?
She did lose in 3.
Yeah, she didn't look. It looked like a decent-ish, warmish upish.
Warmish upish.
Oh no, never mind. I was looking at prices and Osaka Badosa. We were supposed to get that in Rome, but Badosa withdrew.
Oh, what a shocker! She never does that.
they haven't put the line even in faraway places like Czechoslovakia and Sweden. Those markets aren't up yet.
All right. So Zach, you have a plus 550 on Coco. Drew, you're a Coco guy too now, to win the French Open, to win Roland Garros, which would be her second slam, her first French. She did get to one final, right? Didn't she lose to Iga in one final, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Who did Iga beat in finals?
Two ago? Was it 2 ago or 3 ago?
That was 2 ago. Well, no, I can't remember now.
3 ago.
Last
year,
there was a Sakari.
She beat Paolini last year. She beat Mahuva the year before. She beat Goff the year before. So it's been 3 years since we've seen that in the finals. And I think that would be a great final this year.
And then back in the day, who did she beat their first one? Who did she beat in her first one? Trivia question.
I don't remember any of the women she beat in that tournament. She didn't drop a set in that tournament, did she?
She did not drop a set.
Absolutely moonwalk.
Oh, I just looked it up. What an answer. It's
Sophia Kenin. Sophia Kenin is who she beat in the final. That was after Kenin won the Australian Open. She then played in the finals of the French. The big turnaround in that tournament was when Iga beat Simona Halep midway through. That's where the world turned and like, oh my God, because Simona Halep was like a $4 favorite in that match. And people couldn't believe what was happening.
The year before, Simona Halep won like 1-1 against Iga. It was like, oh, she's come this far in 1 year. Oh, yeah,
the world had turned. Anything else we left out, guys?
Person knew.
Any other bets here?
It was coming.
Maybe even for like Drew, you're great at this. A Wimbledon or U.S. Open name at this point here in May before this tournament?
Oh man,
this is usually your thing.
I had
too.
a couple. Yeah, no, I had a couple of. I think you know who I kind of has the signature for breakout first slam at Wimbledon to me.
Mira Andreeva. Mira Andreeva.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's surprised by
that. I think her game is going to be tough for people to figure out on the fly on grass. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Too fast to react.
Right. And I do think Andreeva wins some slam this year. I don't think she certainly hasn't solved Coco. She probably hasn't solved Sabalenka on clay. So I don't think she's winning this one, but I like her. I like her potential to steal Wimbledon. That's a fun one.
I like that one. Usually, you're the guy who's like,
want a name for Wimbledon?
Yeah, give me a name for Wimbledon.
I think Menchik's going to go really deep at Wimbledon. I think he's got a good game for it.
Ooh. Menchik last year in the early hardcourt season, Menchik was such a great bet over and over again. Like $2 dogs. He beat like Rublev. He beat all these guys. He is a great player on the come up. Not quite a Draper level come up, but he's an outstanding player. U.S. Open. I remember, Drew, you had some years where you're like, Holger Rune, U.S. Open.
Yeah, that was memorable.
By the way, what about him? What about him? Where do you stand on him before we go here?
I can't believe he
has some type of illness.
I can't believe he beat Alcaraz in Barcelona. I guess rumors swirling that Alcaraz was not physically 100% there, and that was backed up with him withdrawing from Madrid. But yeah, I mean, like that's kind of where he's at right now, career wise. Where surprise, he can win a 500.
Yeah,
that you don't expect.
I
don't rate him at all to do anything in this tournament.
I am like Owen lifetime fading him though in any match. He always he'll be, I'll have a match point. I'll have like 2 points away or 2 match points. It doesn't matter. I always end up losing when I fade that guy because he's steely.
Yeah.
I think he's going to figure it out when he's like 25, 26.
I think you're right. Sorry, Drew, what'd you say?
See, that's the funny thing about a guy like him though, is that what made him seem to me like a guy that had will win a slam one day potential was his sort of like absurdly like unfounded confidence and just just black out and just, win clutch points against a Djokovic in his prime, right? And you're like, holy smokes, if he can do that, like this guy's going to win a slam one day. And that part of his game is sort of faded as he's come into matches he thinks he's going to win and hasn't, right? So I kind of think it's.
I love the phrase "unfounded confidence" is such a damning phrase. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about like when a player like Ostapenko wins the Women's French Open, right? Like,
which she did.
She didn't know any better.
Yeah.
She didn't know any better. She didn't know she wasn't supposed to win.
2017.
Right? 100-1 pre-tournament for her. None of them never would have believed she could have put together that kind of run of form. And she's out there just firing away. Like, no, like, what do you mean I'm not supposed to win? I'm winning every tournament I play, like that's the kind of thing that kind of helps carry you across the finish line.
I mean, think how many tournaments like Iga in 2020, same thing. Raducanu at the U.S. Open, same thing. It's like, if you don't know any better and you're playing like completely loose, as opposed to now when you're at the top of the mountain, you're like, oh my God, I can't.
Yes.
Oh, they're all coming for me. I mean, that's Iga, right?
Yeah.
So.
Pressure is a wild thing.
Wild thing.
Andreeva, 9-1 for Wimbledon is the price I'm seeing. Who is it you guys were tipping? Was it the men's side? Was it Mahach?
Menchik.
Oh, Menchik. Where is he? I'm not seeing him. 40-1.
Yeah. I like it. Good call, Zach.
Yeah. Wimbledon's going to be.
I don't think he's going to win.
Zach does a lot of that. He's like, I don't think the Pacers or the T-Wolves are going to win the title. I do have futures on both of them, however.
I always play just hoping to hedge. I don't know.
Yeah.
Play the prices. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we've done all we can do without lines out for round one or quarters out. We'll leave it at that, and we'll look for the quarters that we mentioned, those prices, and then beyond to Wimbledon as well. I appreciate it both. Zach, all your stuff is at VSiN.com, correct?
Yep.
You doing any Tennis Channel pods on this?
Going to be on one tomorrow. I don't know what time it is. I should know, but I'm going to be on one tomorrow.
Zach Cohen, master promoter as well for his own stuff. Drew, deep dive dailies as well now, right? With Andy?
Yeah. We go live every morning and chop it up. Tune in tomorrow, Friday, for your Wine of the Week recommendation.
Wine of the Week. Oh, what a life this man leads. It's a fantastic life. We should all aspire to be Drew Dinsick next go round. Thanks, guys. Drew Dinsick, whale_capper on Twitter, Zach Cohen, betting on X. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube. Good luck with all your bets for the French Open in 2025.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger. Because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.